All right, folks, get ready for takeoff because today we're going deep on Top Gun Maverick.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, you all sent in a ton of IMDb user reviews. Some are giving it a perfect 10, and others, well, not so much.
So is it all just hype?
Yeah, is Maverick actually worth the hype or just a nostalgia trip? That's our mission today.
And right away, I'm seeing some serious differences in how people feel about it.
Oh, yeah? Like what?
You got people calling it the best movie of 2022, and then others saying it's basically Star Wars, The Force Awakens all over again, relying on the same old formulas.
Interesting. So, not a simple yes and no then?
Definitely not. There's a lot more to this than meets the eye.
Well, we can't ignore the obvious, right? A lot of these reviews are crazy positive. I'm talking incredible, epic, even best sequel ever kind of stuff.
You can really see that this movie tapped into people's desire for, like, a truly awesome spectacle.
Right, and something that just feels, I don't know, awe-inspiring.
Totally. One person even says it's better than the original.
Wow, that's a bold statement considering how much people loved the first Top Gun.
It is, but it makes you wonder what they did right to get that kind of reaction.
And it's not all just hype either, right? Like, I found this one review from someone who says they're a combat vet and a pilot, and they said no one left the theater for a full 90 minutes.
Whoa, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, if that's not a sign of a movie that totally grabs you, I don't know what is.
You're right. That level of immersion says a lot about how captivating this movie must be.
And I think part of it has to be how they went all out with the practical effects, especially in those flying scenes.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just a bunch of CGI. It's Tom Cruise actually up there pushing the limits.
In real fighter jets.
In real fighter jets.
Yeah, and speaking of Tom Cruise, everyone's praising his dedication.
I mean, the guy's almost 60.
Right. And he's still doing his own stunts, pushing himself further than any other actor, probably.
You really don't see that kind of commitment in this day and age where so much is done with computers.
Makes you wonder if audiences are craving that realness.
I think so. Like, you're not just watching action, you're feeling it.
And it almost feels like a throwback to how movies used to be made, before all the CGI took over.
Totally. It's a different era of filmmaking.
It makes me wonder how they actually shot those flight scenes.
Oh, I'm sure it was incredibly complex.
Like, what kind of cameras did they use? How did they get those shots?
That sounds like a deep dive for another day.
Okay, so we know the action is intense and really well done.
Super intense.
But we got to address the elephant in the cockpit, right? Top Gun is a classic.
Yeah, the original is iconic. How does this sequel measure up?
Right, because lots of reviews mention loving all the little nods and connections to the first movie.
Like, they're happy with the callbacks?
Yeah, but is it just rehashing old stuff? One person called it Top Gun: The Force Awakens, like it's just another formulaic remake.
Oh, that's harsh.
Yeah, so it seems like some people are loving the nostalgia and others are feeling a bit...
Down.
Yeah, maybe let down is the right word.
Well, it is a tricky balance to strike, appealing to old fans and new ones.
Totally, so that's something we'll have to dig into a little deeper.
Absolutely. We need to see if it's genuine homage or just playing it safe.
Exactly. All right, so we've got some high-flying action, Tom Cruise going all out.
Pushing the limits.
And this whole question of nostalgia versus originality. What else are we seeing in these reviews?
Well, there's one thing that everyone seems to agree on.
Let's hear it.
Paulus, the flight scenes are absolutely breathtaking.
Really? Everyone, even the critics?
It seems so. One person said it made them feel like they were actually in the cockpit.
Wow, that's got to be something else.
It really does, and now I'm even more curious about how they filmed all that.
Me too, me too.
But it sounds like those scenes are truly something special.
Definitely worth the price of admission, maybe. All right, so the action is top-notch, but what about the story and the characters themselves?
Now that's where things get a bit more... Yeah, you could say that. Some people found the plot kind of predictable.
Like nothing new.
Yeah, big cliche, they said, and that the characters felt kind of flat, not much depth.
Oh, I see.
But then others are saying it's exactly what you'd expect from a Top Gun movie.
Like it delivers on the promises it makes.
Exactly. They want that high-stakes action, the emotional moments.
Even if it's not, like, groundbreaking or anything.
Exactly. So it really depends on what you're looking for in a movie like this.
Makes sense. So not a slam dunk in the story department, it seems.
Not a slam dunk, but maybe still a solid win for some.
Okay, interesting. So we've got incredible action, some nostalgia, but maybe a mixed bag when it comes to the story itself.
That's what we've got so far. But there's still a lot more to unpack, and we've got some juicy details to get into.
You've got my attention. Let's dive back in.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so we're back, and it's pretty clear Top Gun Maverick is trying to do a lot of things at once. Intense action, bringing back those nostalgic vibes, even some emotional depth.
Right, hitting all the marks.
But looking at these reviews, it seems like those different parts of the movie don't work for everyone.
Yeah, it's like there are different groups of people having totally different experiences with it.
Exactly. And it makes me think about that Force Awakens comparison again.
That keeps coming up, huh?
Yeah, both films have that mix of nostalgia and huge spectacle, but they also get people arguing about whether they're truly original or just playing it safe.
It's a good point. I think it shows a bigger trend in how movies are made these days, especially when they're bringing back popular franchises.
Yeah, especially those big franchises, like a balancing act.
Totally. You don't want to upset the hardcore fans who are coming for those familiar moments and references.
Right, they want that hit of nostalgia.
Exactly. But at the same time, you can't just rehash the same old formulas, especially if you want to bring in new viewers,
It's a tough spot to be in, for sure.
for sure. And Top Gun Maverick, just like The Force Awakens, seems to be walking that tightrope, but not always perfectly.
Right. Some people love how it captures the spirit of the original while still adding new characters and stories, while others feel like it's too much of the same old stuff. Too derivative, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. So maybe it just comes down to personal taste.
Like some people just want that comfort food of a familiar story.
Exactly. And others are looking for something that really pushes the boundaries.
Something totally new.
Totally. But I also think we need to consider the context of when these movies came out.
What do you mean?
Well, we live in a time of reboots, remakes, and sequels. Nostalgia is a big deal right now.
Oh, for sure. Everything old is new again.
Exactly. There's something comforting about going back to familiar stories and characters.
Especially in times when things feel, a bit uncertain.
Oh, absolutely. It's like seeking comfort in something that made you feel good before. But does that mean we're losing out on original ideas?
Yeah, are we sacrificing creativity for the sake of nostalgia?
That's a big question. I don't think it has to be one or the other, though.
So what's the ideal situation then?
I think it's about finding a balance, recognizing why those familiar elements are powerful, but also pushing things forward, exploring new ideas, and giving the characters more depth.
And that's where the debate, the story and characters in Top Gun Maverick gets really interesting.
It does.
Some people find the plot predictable, sticking to those classic Top Gun tropes, cocky pilots, intense training, a dangerous mission.
Yeah, the formula.
Exactly. But then you have others who say that's exactly what they wanted from a Top Gun movie.
It's like it's its own genre at this point.
Right, and maybe they're not looking for a super complex story or groundbreaking characters.
They want that adrenaline rush, those emotional moments,
Pure entertainment.
Exactly. So it really depends on what you're hoping to get out of it.
Right, expectations are everything. And speaking of expectations, those flying scenes seem to blow everyone away.
Oh, they're incredible. People are talking about feeling like they were right there in the cockpit with Tom Cruise.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I think that speaks to the power of practical effects.
Real stunts, real planes, real everything.
Exactly. There's something so visceral about it, a feeling you just can't get with CGI, no matter how good it gets.
It feels more real, more intense.
Exactly. You're not just watching the action, you're experiencing it on a deeper level. And it's not just what you see, it's the sound design, the way they use the cameras to capture those G-forces, the disorientation of being in a dogfight.
It's like they're putting you right there in the pilot's seat.
Exactly. And that's where their dedication to technical detail really pays off.
It makes you wonder if that commitment to realism, to doing things practically, might have influenced how the story itself was written.
Now that's an interesting thought. It's possible, right? Working within the limitations of real-world filming, real airplanes, it might have shaped some of the choices they made.
It makes sense, right? If you're relying on CGI, you can do pretty much anything you want.
Oh, for sure. But when you're committed to doing things for real, you have to work within a different set of rules.
It's like those real-world limitations become part of the storytelling.
Absolutely. And I think that can add a layer of authenticity to the movie, even if it's something you don't consciously notice. It's like the movie saying, this is as real as it gets, folks. We're not faking it.
And that can have a powerful impact on the audience.
For sure. Okay, so we've talked about the action, the nostalgia, the technical aspects, but what about the heart of the movie?
The characters and the emotions.
Exactly. Because even though some people find the plot a bit predictable, there's a general feeling that the movie does have some genuinely moving moments.
Yeah, there's a real emotional core there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that Top Gun Maverick isn't trying to be a completely original story. It knows what it is.
It's a Top Gun movie, through and through.
Exactly. And it embraces those classic tropes, the rivalries, the mentor-student relationships, the themes of redemption.
The formula, basically.
Yeah, but what I think makes it work is how it connects those tropes to real emotions, to human experiences we can all relate to.
And I think casting Miles Teller as Rooster, Goose's son, adds a lot of depth to the story
Oh, absolutely. It brings in all that personal history and emotional weight.
and forces Maverick to face his past mistakes, those consequences.
Exactly. Teller's performance is really good, very layered, and the dynamic between him and Cruz is both tense and ultimately really heartwarming.
A classic father-son story, but with a Top Gun twist.
You got it. And it's not just about them either, right? There's a whole new group of pilots, each with their own quirks and backstories.
Yeah, creating that sense of camaraderie and competition, just like the original.
Exactly. And that group dynamic, that feeling of a team coming together to overcome challenges and achieve a shared goal, so it's one of the things that makes Top Gun so appealing.
And it taps into something really basic in all of us that need to belong, to find our place in a group, to push ourselves to be our best.
Absolutely. And it also opens up opportunities for some great humor and character development. Remember that scene in the bar where the new recruits challenge Maverick to a game of dogfight football?
Oh, yeah. It was so chaotic and funny.
It was, but it also revealed a lot about their personalities and how they interact as a team.
A great example of how the movie balances those fun, lighthearted moments with the more serious stuff.
Exactly. It's not all just action and spectacle. It's about these characters connecting, building trust, forming bonds. And that's where Jennifer Connelly as Penny comes in.
Her character is interesting. She's not part of the flying action, but she brings something different to the table.
Right. She offers a more grounded perspective, a counterpoint to Maverick's whole daredevil persona.
A different kind of strength.
Absolutely. And I think she represents those themes of maturity, responsibility, and finding balance.
Which Maverick definitely needs. He's always been that lone wolf, pushing the limits.
For sure. Always chasing the next thrill. But with Penny, he has to confront a different side of himself, to think about how his actions affect others.
Maybe even slow down a little.
Yeah, find a different kind of peace. And the movie doesn't hit you over the head with that message either.
It's subtle, more nuanced.
Exactly. It comes through in their interactions, their conversations, the way they look at each other.
And it's a testament to the actors that they convey so much with relatively little screen time together.
I agree. It adds a layer of emotional complexity to Maverick's character. He's not just a hotshot pilot anymore. He's a man dealing with his past, his relationships, and figuring out where he fits in the world.
It's really well done. And speaking of emotional moments, we have to talk about Val Kilmer's appearance as Iceman.
Oh, absolutely. It's brief, but it's so powerful.
Especially considering his health challenges in real life. He manages to convey so much with just his eyes and his presence.
It's incredible, really. A testament to his talent and the impact these characters have had. Reviewers consistently point to that scene as one of the most memorable parts of the movie.
It's sensitive, emotionally charged, and a beautiful tribute to the original film in Kilmer's career.
You can really feel the weight of their history together. It speaks to how movies can connect us across time and circumstances. Like, these stories can stay with us and impact our lives in profound ways.
It's a beautiful reminder that even amidst the action and spectacle, there's a real heart to this movie.
A story about connection, about legacy, about facing your fears.
All right, so we've talked about all the pieces of Top Gun, Maverick, the action, the nostalgia, the characters, the emotions, but now I want to kind of zoom out a little. This movie really hit home with audiences, but what does that say about us, about the kind of stories we're craving these days?
That's where it gets really interesting. This wasn't just a fun movie. It was a whole cultural event. And I think it goes way beyond just how much money it made. It got people talking about practical effects, again, about those classic stories that never get old, and how we feel about nostalgia.
You know, that one review keeps sticking with me, the one from the combat vet who said no one left their seat for 90 minutes. It's like the movie tapped into something deep inside us, something more than just entertainment.
I totally get that. The world can feel pretty chaotic and divided sometimes, and people are looking for things that bring us together, stories that remind us we're all human. And Top Gun Maverick, with all that stuff about courage and sacrifice and working together, seems to give people that.
It's like, even with all the fancy technology and CGI and superhero universes out there, we still want those more grounded human stories. Stories about pushing your limits, facing your fears, about those really strong friendships.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to think that Maverick came out just as we were all getting over the pandemic, that time of isolation. People were craving connection and a sense of hope.
And Maverick swooped in with those amazing visuals, that positive message, that whole feeling of, we can do this.
It gave people a boost, right? A shot of adrenaline and inspiration. Like, even when things are tough, we can still achieve awesome things if we work together.
Yeah, exactly. And it did all that while paying respect to the original, hitting those nostalgia buttons without getting stuck in the past.
Right. It brought together different generations, people who loved the first Top Gun and those who are discovering it now.
A lot of reviews mentioned that how it appealed to so many different people, like it captured that timeless cool factor that made the original so iconic.
Totally. And it's not just about being cool either. I think it's about those core values: courage, determination, loyalty, pushing yourself to be your best. Those are things that resonate with everyone, no matter how old you are or where you're from.
It's funny because for all the talk about nostalgia, Top Gun, Maverick also feels really relevant to today's world. Technology's changing so fast, the way we fight wars is evolving, and the line between humans and machines is getting blurry.
Yeah, it's almost like the movie is reflecting those anxieties. It shows how Maverick's way of doing things, relying on instinct and gut feelings, is kind of becoming outdated in a world of drones and AI.
And it raises the question of whether human skill and intuition can still win in a world that's becoming more and more automated and impersonal.
Yeah, it makes you think. And the movie doesn't pretend to have all the answers. It recognizes those fears and uncertainties, but ultimately it says that human connection, trust, creativity, and adaptability are still incredibly important.
It's like even in a world run by technology, there's still a place for the human spirit, for those things that can't be programmed or copied.
Right. And I think that message really hit home, especially when so much of our lives feels controlled by technology and algorithms. It reminds us we still have choices, we can still take risks, we can still push ourselves further than we think we can.
And it does it in a way that's both exciting and inspiring. The movie celebrates those amazing achievements, but also shows the real cost, the sacrifice, or risks of pushing yourself to the edge.
For sure, it's not sugarcoating war or violence. It shows how tough it can be physically and mentally on those who serve. But it also celebrates their dedication, their bravery, their willingness to put everything on the line for something bigger than themselves.
Something else that struck me was how the film deals with legacy. Maverick is clearly still haunted by the past, by losing Goose, and he's trying to figure out where he belongs in a world that's moving on without him.
Absolutely, and I think that's something everyone deals with, whether they've been in the military or not. We all think about legacy, how our past shapes us, and how we pass on what we've learned to others.
And the film shows that in a complex way. It doesn't ignore the weight of the past or the guilt and responsibility, but it also says that redemption is possible, that we can learn from our mistakes and move forward.
And that redemption often comes from helping others, guiding and supporting those coming up after us. At first, Maverick's not so sure about being a teacher, but he realizes that his biggest contribution might be helping the next generation of pilots. Not just teaching them to fly, but helping them navigate life, love, and loss.
It's a really great arc for his character, and it gets back to those themes of connection and community that we talked about. Maverick might be a legend, but he's also human. And it's those moments when he's vulnerable and connecting with others that really make him shine.
Exactly, and that's what makes Top Gun Maverick such a powerful and lasting film. It's not just about the cool action or amazing effects, it's about the human heart, the things that connect us, and the bravery it takes to face our fears and aim for something bigger than ourselves.
I love that. So, as we put a pin in this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away?
I think it's this. Even when the world feels uncertain and divided, there's still a place for stories that bring it together, inspire us, and remind us of what we all share as human beings. Top Gun. Maverick shows how powerful movies can be, how they can lift us up, spark our imagination, and make us feel more connected to the world.
That's a beautiful thought, and I think it's the perfect way to wrap things up. So, to all our fellow deep divers out there, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep looking for those stories that make you feel truly alive. And no matter what you're facing, remember, the sky's the limit.